Good afternoon, family. Hope your day is going great. I'm getting ready to go to work. I wanted to do a quick video about the next chakra before I go to work. The next chakra is the throat chakra. It has to do with our expression, which is why it's located in our throat. It is associated with the color blue. It has the sense of sound tied to it, which makes sense why we express ourselves, and how we express ourselves will affect whether or not our throat chakra is open or closed. Some of the organs that the throat chakra affects are the vocal cords, the mouth, the throat, the ears, the thyroid. The element tied to it is ether. Some gemstones that will help are aquamarine, blue sapphire, and turquoise. Some herbs are benzoin, basil, chamomile, cypress, eucalyptus, and some sage. Some essential oils are, again, basil, chamomile, cypress, eucalyptus, frankincense, and peppermint. Now, some of the effects of having a closed throat chakra is you have fears about communicating with others and how others take the things that you say. So if you're somebody that's very shy, that has a hard time expressing themselves to people, or often feels like people don't want to hear what you have to say, then your throat chakra is probably not working right, and you need to find meditations to help you with the throat chakra. It's very important as we learn to speak our truth and we learn who we truly are, that we learn to speak with a certain authority, not an egoic authority, but more of an authority of truth. And we also need to not overdo it and learn to listen to others and understand that their insights are very important to our growth. So there has to be a balance between expressing yourself and also listening, because I think the Dalai Lama says that it's great to talk, but usually when you talk, you're just recycling stuff that you know. But when you listen to others, that's when you really grow, because you're hearing things you've never heard before. So that's always a great thing to keep in mind when you're talking to others. Even if they might be saying things that you don't agree with, you might actually find something out of the things that they say if you just keep an open ear and an open mind. Some causes of a overreactive chakra are you talk too much. Like I was saying before, you tend to cut people off and talk over them, which isn't a good sign of your expression. It shows that you might not believe in the things you're saying, so you're trying to keep overimposing it upon people. Talking to hear oneself talk without listening to others. Yeah, it's a problem for us to think that we have all the answers and not listen to others. So I'm always very open to hear other people's knowledge and wisdom, because I know that they're seeing it from a completely different angle that I'm seeing it. So they might have some insights to share with me that I would have never seen unless I talked to them. So always keep an open mind. Keep yourself in tune with your throat chakra and your expression of truth. I'm going to close off with a paragraph from Falling into Grace by Ayashanti. Finding freedom even in the most difficult moments. When I was in my mid-20s, I had a beautiful dog. I'm sure some of you have had pets that you deeply loved. I had this wonderful dog, and he was a constant companion. He went with me everywhere. Any room I went to in the house, he followed. Anywhere I went in the car, he was my companion. We were together almost all the time, and then he developed a form of epilepsy, at which time I took him to the vet. They tried to give him medication and treat it, but the question of how much medication to take or not take is sort of an art. We were just starting to treat him, and after a few weeks, I came home, and he was in the midst of an epileptic fit, and the fit didn't stop. It went on, and there was no way to save him. Eventually, he ended up having to be put down. This was one of the saddest moments of my life. Prior to that moment, I'd experienced some sort of grief in my life. I had grandparents die and friends die, and sometimes people very close to me die. But I was never affected like I was when I lost this great companion. I found myself in a deep sorrow, a sorrow that I couldn't really understand because I had never experienced it before. One afternoon, some friend's family and I went out to the backyard for a final goodbye. I had my dog's collar and a few other things that had belonged to him, and we put them in a box. I had written out what I wanted to say, and as I began to read this eulogy, I began to weep. Tears just started pouring out of my eyes. At some point, the grief was so immense that I decided to just completely give in to it. I completely let go into this great well of sorrow and grief. I was crying and crying while still trying to continue with the eulogy, and then something very mysterious happened. Something that I hadn't expected at all. Right in the middle of the immense grief and sadness, right at the point of the heart in my chest, there was this very small pinprick of light. And right in the midst of this pinprick of light, there was a smile. And I could literally almost see a smile in my mind in this pinprick of light. When it started, it was just a small point within this vast expanse of grief and sorrow. But as I kept crying, as I kept speaking the eulogy, this point of happiness began to expand. After a few minutes, this point of happiness had vastly grown and become absolutely immense, and there was this very strange paradoxical experience. On one hand, I was enmeshed in this deep state of grief and sadness, but at the same moment, there was a greater happiness and a greater sense of well-being that I'd ever experienced in my life. It was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. It's always the toughest experiences that teach us the hardest lessons, but we don't ever see that until after. So I hope when you're having a tough experience, you learn to feel blessed that although it's a tough experience at that moment, everything is lining up for you and everything will work out for you no matter what. So even when we pass these bodies, things still work out for us. So there's really nothing to fear but fear itself. Namaste. Hope you guys have a great day. Till next time.